On today's show, you know who we are, but you don't know why we're here. Lace them up and lock in. JWJ.
Man, it's been a long time coming. Let's go. And if you weren't watching, if you weren't listening, you might not have known.
You know what time it is. Lace them up and lock in. JWJ. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's been a long time, but we back again. First time since February. Thank you for tuning in to the JWJ podcast. I'm your host, Shane Thomas, and I'm joined by my guy, my shooter on the wing, Mr. James Washington. What it do, what it is, my boy.
What is happening, big bro, little bro, whatever the hell you want to be? It's been too long. It's been a long damn time. How you been, man?
Staying out the way.
And then I go running off with my cell phone, and all they can see is my scurrying feet, right?
No, for real. Oh man, it's great to be back. We've missed recording. It's been a long 8 months now.
Almost 8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the last time we spoke to you guys, it was All Star Weekend. Uh,
Jesus.
we made all kinds of bizarre predictions, and it's been a long time.
And
So
I don't think any of them came true, but we'll ignore that.
yeah, right. I don't think I think we missed everything by like at least 10 miles. Like it was pretty bad.
It doesn't matter if y'all weren't listening, you don't count. Proceed.
So obviously, this is our first episode back, and we're gonna switch it up, and we're gonna do something that we've promised a long time ago, probably even going back to our very first season. And we just want to talk, we just kind of want to step back, reintroduce ourselves, but also we want to let our listeners know a little bit more about us. You know, we obviously get on here, we talk ball, but I think we should get back to kind of the grassroots, kind of how we started the podcast way back in 2022.
Bro, we started in 22, but we had talked about it long before then.
Right. So this whole project that we're doing with the JWJ podcast is something that it's been kind of a brainchild of ours ever since what we had just got out of college. I think like we were. I mean, it's been at least 10 years.
It
Um.
I mean, honestly, bro, I think it goes even deeper than that.
Yeah.
Um I it it's been something very, very long in the making. Like I think for everybody listening that knows how we've been teasing it, the 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 whole acronym has been teased for quite a while, and everybody's wondering what the heck it means. You remember we even joked and said that was going to be the name of the episode. What the heck is a JWJ?
Right. Right.
That was something I think we actually coined that before we even had an idea for a podcast. Like
Yeah.
that's been a long time coming for people to know what all went into that. But it's
Right.
I mean,
And
if you've been listening, thank you, because you about to get a surprise today or tonight, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, for sure. And before we get started, we do again want to thank you all for lacing up and locking in with us and making JWJ a part of your day. Um, you know, if you however you get your podcast, be sure to follow us there. You know, we kind of fell off the map a little bit. Life got in the way, but we're back. And another thing before we get started, just want to kind of give our thoughts on our people back in Valdosta. They got hit really hard by Hurricane Helene. You know, about 3 weeks ago now. Um, with a lot of damage. Luckily, my family back there is good. Not a whole lot of damage. But there's some people that I still like, even other friends of mine who I still haven't heard from that I've tried to get in contact with. So our thoughts and prayers are with them and everybody that's still trying to kind of pull their lives back together after such a catastrophic event. It's the second or third hurricane that's come through Valdosta in the last 13 months.
It's
So yeah,
yeah, it's thankfully, I mean, I've been in touch with pretty much all of my family down that way. Everybody's good. We did see some damage. I had a couple of cousins that, you know, saw some damage to vehicles. My sister and her husband pretty much lost their rental property. Huge oak tree from in the backyard fell, pretty much split their house in half. Thankfully, the family that they were renting to was not there at the time. So again, all I'm really concerned with, there was no damage to human beings. Everything else can be replaced. So I'm just glad that everybody's doing well. A couple of my family members are actually still dealing with not having power. Um, I think today is day 13, 14 that they've been without power. So I know they're working really hard in Valdosta trying to get everything together. And I it's just a scary situation all around. It's like that that's home, man. So it just for lack of better, it just really sucks. It just
yeah,
you
it's terrible, man. I mean, it's I have friends who you know one guy in particular, my guy John. Shout out to him. Haven't heard from him since this whole thing. I'm hoping he's okay. His living situation was a little bit tough. Um, but he's a good friend of mine, so hopefully he's okay during all this. Um, Shout out to all the people, Big Nick's, big restaurant back in Valdosta. Shout out to my guy Big Nick. Uh, the people over at Fin and Feathers, our guy White Boy Tony.
Tony
Shout out to him.
Tong, man, that's my
Um,
guy. Hey, I don't know how often you listen to us, man, but if you ever hear this, we love you and respect everything that you're doing. You are a true product of that city, and you are doing us so proud, man.
Yeah, shout out to Big Nick, shout out to White Boy Tony, shout out to our guy Graham Wynn. He's done a great job of documenting some of the stuff that's been going on around Valdosta State University, the place where me and James met. That we're about to tell our story very shortly.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, stay laced up, stay locked in. We're about to get to that, but the work that those people have done to create awareness, to help have provide hot meals for people, that kind of stuff isn't lost on people. I've seen the effort that these guys have put in to make sure that those that are displaced and are hungry and without power, things like that, that they've been able to provide, some services and some aid to people that have been affected by this terrible natural disaster.
Another one.
Shout out to yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say another one. I don't know if you've seen it on socials, but we're both very familiar because again, it'll probably come up in our story at some point. But back in the day, to the old days of Wayne Washington, the barbershop. I'm sure you know Daryl Dove.
Hmm.
He now owns a barbershop downtown. And he posted on social media a couple of days ago and said that if there's anybody that's actually trying to evacuate right now because of everything going on with Milton in Florida, he's opening up his barbershop. He said it's not much room, but he's, anybody that wants to come through that's coming through the Valdosta way that wants to camp out there, sleep there, rest there, do whatever they need to do. He's opening his doors for them too. And I'm like, these are those moments where you really see just how important it is to have people, period. Um, it doesn't matter who it is. It's just there's in the strangest way, there's beauty in the struggle. And it's just so good to see, like you said, with Big Nick, Tony, Daryl Dove, who else?
Graham,
My guy Graham, my guy, it's another one of my buddies, Larry Johnson. I know this is a basketball podcast, but it's not that Larry Johnson, but that is actually his name. Um, shout out to Larry. Like, he's out there trying to get things done. Like, it's a lot of people, and if I'm missing any names, you know what they say, charge it to my head and not my heart. But there's a lot of people in town that are really stepping up and are really trying to get things done and make things happen. So shout out to each and every one of y'all that are really sticking yourselves out there and trying to help the city recover, because it's been bad.
yeah, and I mean it's a slow process right now. Like James said, there's a lot of people that still don't have power, still don't have internet access. Um, people that you know, because of the power, it's hot down there too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bad, and there's still damage. I know my old neighborhood, my old house. I've seen pictures from out there. There's still power lines down. There's still trees across the street. Um, it's bad, and they're slowly but surely trying to pull everything back together, and it's going to take a while. But I'm just glad that our loved ones and a lot of our friends have come through it okay. I've heard from a few people that they're fine and things like that. But I wanted to start off by acknowledging that, because there's a lot of people that have been severely affected by this, and a lot of stuff that's been going on. So thoughts and prayers with y'all and Valdosta as a whole. But if anything is certain, given the community we come from, it'll be back strong, and people will show up and show out at different things in town. So shout out to Big Nick, shout out to Finn and Feathers, with our guy Tony. Shout out to Graham
Yeah,
and all the stuff he's done with Valdosta State University and the services they've been able to provide.
for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah. So
Um,
you know, with that being said, before we get started, if you are listening to this on YouTube, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, click that notification bell to be notified whenever we release new content, which there will be some on the way now that we're back and we have time to actually record. If you're following this on Apple Podcasts, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the JWJ podcast. Now, Mr. James, my brother, the
you know how weird it is to be wearing these headphones and sitting in front of this mic, man.
it's strange, man.
Oh my goodness.
We before we got on, I was telling James just how nervous I am about this, because it's like
To me,
it's not what we're about to talk about. It's the fact we
it's
just
not
haven't
even
done this in a long time.
it's to me it's not even nerves. It's just I don't feel the least bit nervous. I'm just like, damn. Like, I'm just looking at the mic and I'm like, oh, you're back.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had to dust mine off. I had to dust off
Right.
the filter on my
Like, that's
microphone. Like,
I'm like, that's
man, it
not
was
it. That's not it, man. That's
uh-uh.
we got a little we talk that talk all the time, man. But I'm like, these impromptu breaks are killers, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what's really going on?
I mean, just to kind of get people up to speed with what we've been doing, man. I mean, it's like I said, life gets in the way. Obviously, I'm up here in Pennsylvania, as you guys know from past episodes. I'm the Penn State reporter for CNHI. I cover Penn State football, wrestling, men's and women's basketball. That's what I've been doing for over a year now. So I've been up here in Pennsylvania doing that.
He a Nittany no.
Yeah, yeah, Nittany Lion now, by a transplant, I guess. But that's been a fun gig. I'm kind of upset that I didn't get to go to LA this week. I won't be able to go. Some
We'll
travel
we'll we'll
BS.
we'll leave that
Uh,
one out because that'll be another half hour right there.
yeah, yeah. Y'all don't want to get me started. I was hot. But won't get a chance to go cover the Nittany Lions cover and going there for USC. Kind of bummed about that, but it is what it is. Sometimes stuff doesn't shake out. One thing I'm proud to announce, and I'm gonna beat him to it, is that our guy is still going strong at Jonesboro High School,
This
and
dude.
and it's about to tie all in. Like you know how we do. It's about to tie back in. So our guy is teaching journalism now
Oh,
at Jonesboro High School, and that's a key part of the plot for reasons
oh
that we're about
man.
to get to. So James, talk
Okay.
about. I want
Okay.
you. I want you to talk about like this opportunity that you've taken on that you lobbied for. Honestly, like between us, like talking off camera,
oh
like
man.
this opportunity that you kind of lobbied for quietly, and now you finally had a chance to do that. Just talk about what it means to you as somebody that has gone through mass media, has had journalism training, has done sports writing, and now you get an opportunity to share your expertise and share this great thing we do called journalism with future generations and things like that. Like, talk about your journey to that and how it's gone for you so far this school year.
All right. So first and foremost, we always got to throw wrestling remarks in. So next time I see you, you can expect a Claymore kick to the face. I definitely didn't see that one coming, that curveball, but no, I appreciate that, bro.
Little personal life RKO out of nowhere.
Yeah. Nah, thanks for that though. But yeah, year 7 in the classroom, and this is my first year. I'm what, half a semester down, finally teaching journalism. This is my first time doing it, and I mean, I won't BS anybody. It's definitely been a rocky road because even though I have the background in it, being able to translate it to teaching it to high school students that may not even fully be invested or may not fully be interested. A lot of them that are in that class are there just because their counselors placed them there. They don't want it. You and I learned it on a collegiate level, which again we'll get to that later on. But it's I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough. It's been tough, and along with being over the journalism classes in the school, that also ex facto, got to throw that in there, that also by default makes me the yearbook advisor. So this year so far I've been over making sure seniors get their pictures taken, making sure the rest of the classes, ninth, 10th, and 11th graders, making sure they get their pictures taken. Matter of fact, we're on fall break right now, but in about 2 weeks, matter of fact, tomorrow will make 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, we'll have makeup pictures for everybody else at the school that missed them in August. So it's, planning that and making sure and just trying to get more students interested in the art of journalism. That that has probably been the toughest part of the job. It's like, not what do you, how do you go about teaching students about the beauty of this field when a lot of them don't even care to know? It's trying to explain to them why this field matters, explaining to them why they need to, even if they don't want to pursue a career, explaining how the people in this career think and how they go about their business every day. And that's been the toughest part for me, when you just have students that a lot of times are just not interested. So you just have to find a way to twist it, weave it and make it something that they actually want to pay attention to. And it it's had its ups and downs, like I said before. One of the absolute high points that I'll point out before we move on is, you and I, we're both of age. I'm closer to knocking on 40 than you are. But
Go
one
ahead,
thing
just go ahead and say it. Old as fuck.
well, I mean that part, but
That part.
but a few weeks ago, I well, about a month ago now, I had my students work on a week-long project. And I showed them footage and we talked about what went on in 2001 with the 9/11 attacks in New York and in DC. And it's that realization that I'm dealing with students that were born 6, 7, 8 years after that happened. Like, and it's that to me was probably the biggest way that I was able to open their eyes to how important the field of journalism is. Like, just showing them, okay, just look at this moment and tell me what you see. Tell me how you're going to explain this to somebody that has no clue what's going on. Now, how are you also going to explain this and remain impartial? You're American. If rumors are trickling in that it's happening from someone outside of the United States, in this case, Al Qaeda, all of that, how do you deliver this and you still remain impartial? You don't want to sound one way, sound the other way. You're just delivering the facts. And that a lot of that really hit them.
Right,
And watching that live footage, watching news footage, and they're seeing this, they're really taken aback. They're like, that plane really just went there. This plane really just went there. And these people, look at the looks on their faces, and they're seeing all of this. And I'm telling them, and I'm like, God, I wish I had the speaker written down in front of me. And I'm very upset that I don't. But I wasn't planning to go here. So I fault myself for not being prepared. But one of my favorite quotes when it comes to this field is journalism cannot be silent. That is its biggest asset and its greatest fault. It has to speak in the moment when the fears are there, when the horrors are there, when everything is fresh. And that's what I was trying to explain to my students by showing them 9/11 footage. I'm like, imagine that you're one of these reporters, you're one of these journalists at ground zero. You're having to do your job of holding a camera, holding a microphone, going to try to talk to people. You're a photographer taking pictures. And at the same time, you have to make sure that no debris falls and kills you or injures anybody around you. There's there's so much that goes into it. And 9/11, as tragic as it was, it opened so many of my students' eyes to why journalism, the field, the people involved, the history, it opened so many of their eyes to why this is so important.
right, right.
And after that, a lot of them had so many questions, which of course made my heart so happy. I'm like, that's all I wanted. I'm like, I want y'all to generate questions. I want y'all to come through with this. And a lot of them have started doing it. I've had students that are like, hey, Mr. Washington, like, I'm so dedicated. I even take, I mean, I've had my personal camera, my DSLR, I have my Canon. I've had that for
Canon.
Canon. Uh, I've had that now for I think actually about 10 years now. And I took it to work with me. And I actually let some of my students walk around the school and just practice snapping pictures around the school. And they're slowly falling in love with it. And to me, that's all that matters. To me, it's like regardless of what happens the rest of this year, I already feel amazing about it because I have students that are already coming to me so curious, so interested.
And that's
That
where it starts.
that's where it
That's
starts,
where it
man.
starts. All you need as a journalist, as somebody that's been in this profession for a while now, it starts with curiosity. It
Right.
starts with wanting to know why something is, how
Right.
something is, where it's happening, what's
Never
going on.
never be afraid to question
Right.
anything.
Right. And the 9/11 point you made is a very apt one, because it's like, you know, the people that were down there on ground zero, on CNN, headline news, Fox, and whatever, wherever it was, like all those people had to still do their job under incredible duress.
Right.
Like, and a point you made a few moments ago is true. Impartiality is very important, and it's a big part of like the things I do in my career. It's like feelings are one thing, but your feelings can't matter when facts are at hand. You have to be
Cannot.
able to present the facts without putting your feelings into it. There
Right.
is there is there is an avenue for that. It's called being a columnist, where you can spout off and do that. That's part of journalism as well. It's a fun
Mhm.
thing to do.
Right.
Um, Us being wrestling fans, it's a way for you to kind of cut your promo on whatever.
It's a
Um,
way for you to shoot.
yeah, so it's a way for you to shoot and tell it like a ti is, as my auntie used to say.
Austin
Um,
316. No, sorry. Go ahead.
but yeah, so reason I wanted to bring up James having that opportunity, to be a journalism instructor, is that um, this whole journalism is kind of the reason that this podcast has even come to be, because um,
More than just the podcast, bro.
it's more than just a podcast. I mean, it's way deeper than that, and we are working on getting to that right now. Like, you know, our journey to being friends as long as we have dates back 12 years. So, as we said earlier, we both attended Valdosta State University. James
Honestly,
started earlier than
I,
I had.
I honestly, so check this. So I'm gonna have to segue you a little bit because, in all honesty, while the friendship started at Valdosta State, that's 100% true. But I I think even deeper than that, it's a matter of we both had very, very different roads on how we got there. Like we because like you said, me having starting so much sooner or so much earlier than you did rather. Um there we I don't know if we'd go as far as to call it serendipity. But
There's a component there.
there
There's a
there's
component there.
there's so much that went into it because even if we go back and jump from the beginning, um if we really look at we really look at the root of it, neither one of us was actually born in Valdosta.
Right. Right. Yeah. So from my end, I was born in Greenville, Mississippi, back in June of 1988,
Come on now.
and then I ended up in Valdosta because uh, my great aunt, her husband was a World War II vet.
God rest. God rest.
God rest Tom Jackson. Um, he was a military vet, and she was much younger than him. And you know, my mom and her side of the family were all in Mississippi, and um, my grandma, my great aunt's sister, was like, she was in poor health, and once Tom and my great aunt Ruby, God rest her soul, love that woman, miss her every day.
Mhm.
Uh, they moved here about 20. They moved to Valdosta about 20 years before I was born. So they moved in 1968 and took up there 20 years before I was born. So when I was born, I was in Mississippi for a few months maybe, and then I was pretty much raised in Valdosta. So like, I still had all my female cousins that lived out there. Uh, Shout out to Ashley, Chris, Stacy, all y'all, Nicole. Shout out to all y'all. I know you will never hear this, but I had to shout y'all out anyway. But like, you know, as James was getting at, like it's a very unlikely path. Like just from my side, like I went to Valdosta High School, graduated 2006. Yeah, I know I'm getting old, my back hurts. And
You say that before I start my part. Okay. Yeah.
right,
Pass me the crutches.
right. So like, you know, I went to Valdosta High like a year out of high school. I started at Georgia Military College, a little small community college. I did all my core work there. So by the time I actually got to Valdosta State, it was like 2011, like the fall of 2011. And that's when I started. And I decided, like,
Oh
after
man.
I got the advice from my Uncle Edwin, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I got to Georgia Military, I had no idea. When I got out, I still had no idea. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be an English teacher. Shout out to the other guy on this podcast. I was honestly torn between being a English teacher and being a sociology major. Like those are the two things. Now, it's kind of funny because both of those careers kind of tie into journalism. They're related careers.
True.
Doesn't seem like it, but they are. And
Yeah, yeah.
so, I did all my core for like whatever I could take at GMC. And it was time to get to the transfer and actually start, trying to get a degree. And so my uncle was like, shout out to my uncle Edwin. I'm sure you'll probably hear this at some point because he was a listener before we stopped.
Yeah, what's up, Unc?
Yeah, so he was the one that kind of got my wheels turning because I hooped a lot. I wasn't on my team in high school, but I hooped a lot with a lot of people that were on the team. Um, I didn't play college ball, but I was around the team a lot. Went to all the games, all that stuff. Once I did get to college, and so I chose my major because of my uncle. He was like, you write well. You're very passionate about sports. So this is something, you should try journalism. I was like, what, like the newspapers and stuff? He's like, yeah, I think you'd be perfect for it. And so I thought about it and I decided that was something I wanted to do. And so I declared for the major and that was a whole other world that I was stepping into that I had no idea when I stepped foot on campus. Like for one, it's the whole college experience on top of that. Because I mean, Georgia Military was like, at that time before it really
A
expanded.
microcosm.
Right. It was a very small scale situation. Like it was a small campus. Maybe 500 people went to school there. Maybe.
Right, right, right.
And so by the time I left there in 2010, like it had expanded and added to the building. And so it went from 500 people to like 750. But like, it was a good start because I had some good teachers there that kind of inspired some things. And I don't think they even really realized it. And
Hmm.
so one of the things I had a sociology teacher, her name was Dr. Brzezinski. Shout out to Dr. Breezy. So
Doc
if I,
Breeze.
if I remember correctly, she was from Jersey, and I think she's like Polish American. So shout out to Dr. Brzezinski.
Okay, okay.
And she would look around in the class, and I took her class twice. I took it once for sociology and once for a class called social problems or something like that.
Hmm.
And she would always give this impassioned speech. One of the things she would say is, one of you in this class right now is gonna change the world. One of you is gonna rock the boat.
All right, all right.
Which one of you will be the one that rocks the boat? And she'd look at us and she was dead serious.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so like there was that, and then I had another guy, Dr. Harris. He was like he's the only black English teacher I think I had like past high school, I think. And so Dr.
Oh,
Harris,
while you
yeah,
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but you say that out loud. I don't think I've ever had a black English teacher, bro. I haven't. Like not in the least bit joking.
Yeah, I think
Never had a black
looking
English
back,
teacher in my life.
yeah, looking back, I had obviously like not even not counting like kindergarten or anything like that. But
Yeah.
like if you go to middle school into high school, no, I can go back to fifth grade. Fifth grade, I had an English teacher named Miss Rowe. I had Miss Rowe
Whoa,
fifth
whoa.
grade.
Yeah, yeah. I take that back. I take that back.
Yeah,
Sixth grade at Newbern, I had Miss Ridley.
yeah.
I take that back. I
And and it's a good point you mentioned. I'm
uh,
getting to that right now. Matter of
okay,
fact,
okay,
scrap the rest of what I just said.
okay, okay.
Miss Ridley,
Yeah.
she also taught me sixth grade. And here,
No,
and
that team 6-1. Team six
yeah.
one.
So this is where this ties in, and then we can move on.
And
So
mind y'all, people, this is years before we met.
yeah, I was 11 years old. So yeah, so James has what, three years on me?
Three. Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm 36. James is LeBron. So
yeah. Hey, to be fair, even though his body looks much better than mine, LeBron is actually about 5, 6 months older than me.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah.
long live the king.
I won't be
So
40. I won't be 40 until next year. It's
yeah, yeah,
just to be fair.
yeah. Just to be fair. So it's cool that you mentioned Miss Ridley because that just, like I said, scrap everything I was just about to talk about. Miss Ridley uh gave me the most important. She spoke life into me, and I didn't even know it. I was 11 years old, and I think it was in February. We had to do a Black History Month project, and we had to write like an essay or something about like a figure from Black history. So I did mine obviously on Martin Luther King. So I
Everybody,
did it.
right?
I turned it
Right.
in. I mean, obviously that's like the,
Everybody,
that's
right, right.
that's the Black History Month greatest hits.
Of
You,
course,
you
of
got to
course,
start with Dr. King. So,
of course.
long story short, I wrote this essay, and like week or two goes by, and we show up to class one day, and she said at the beginning of the class, she said, "Shane, I want to see you after class." I was like, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble." And so I was like, did I bomb it? Like, you know what I mean? Because I mean, I was a good kid. I wasn't like,
Really didn't play. Really is.
right, right. And so like I thought, oh man, like I'm cooked. I don't know what's about to happen. And so we go through the class, and after class, she said, "Look," she said, "Shane, I'm gonna tell you this. In all my years of teaching, I don't know how long she had been teaching, but she was like, in all the
It was a
years I've been
minute.
teaching, uh, I've seen a lot of people's writing." And she said, "I've never seen someone your age write like this. I'm gonna tell you this, and I want you to hear me good. Reading what you wrote today, you're gonna be a great writer someday.
Yeah, man.
Watch.
That's
You believe me. Reading this," she said, you will be a great
yeah.
writer someday." I was 11 years old, and so what I took from that was, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. I'm ready to go to lunch. So
Right. I'm hungry.
I'm hungry, and so like fast forward to like what I do now. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I was 11 years old. I, you know, I always was able to write. I could speak a little bit, but I wanted to play sports. My journey into sports journalism started stealing the sports page from my auntie's paper every
Yeah.
day, and I'd read the
Yeah.
sports page. And she didn't care for it, but she knew I liked it, so she'd leave it out for me, or I would just have to take it. And I would sit there and I'd read over the stuff every day. And so you fast forward even more, you get to college, and all of a sudden it's like, this is your major. This is what you're about to do. And, you know, it was tough. Going into college was tough. I mean, we're talking 3,000 level classes. We're talking classes you don't want any part of. We're talking 8 a.m. literature classes, which is like,
Just the
you
natural
know,
intimidation.
yeah, like there was so many different things. I mean, it was a bigger school. I mean, it's thousands of people. And I remember like just being there and I didn't have any friends. Like I didn't have any friends that went there. And so I had to like try to make friends. And I remember like hanging out in the student union, like reading books and stuff and people watching. And I was like, I've never felt more alone in a room full of people than I did when I first started college.
I
And,
feel you.
gave it, I don't know what, like at least a semester or two.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like at least I was there for maybe like 3 semesters before I was in Dr. Miller's editing for publications class.
And that look,
And
look
there
here,
was a
look.
guy in that class by the name of James Washington that's sitting on this podcast with me right now. And
Just, yeah.
here's where it all connects
Yeah, man.
because we got in this class. Now keep in mind, this was right after the Mavs won the championship from that June 2011 up to
Oh,
what?
look,
Yeah.
first off, before we get to that, I gotta say, and I'll stick to it as much as I love you, screw Dallas. But like the the pathway, no, it's funny. It's funny when you mention how crazy it goes. One thing, first off, I never knew about that Ridley connection.
Mm.
That's wild. I never
I didn't
knew
know
that.
either, so I had to jump
I
on.
I never knew that we both had her.
Yeah.
That's intense because I had a similar moment with her. Um, so like, for me, I mean, I've told you like similar, you only lived in Greenville for a few months. Um, May of 85, I'm born deep south, Mobile, Alabama. Um, I was only there, as far as I know, from my parents for about 6 months before we moved to Jacksonville. We're bouncing all over the place because my dad, was an air traffic controller. He's getting promos moving, so we're all over the place. And I've told you before, one thing that I kind of developed early on is that I didn't make it a major point after a while to try to make friends, because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not trying to be upset or be hurt. So, what's the point of me trying to make friends with these people over here, or trying to attach myself to these people over here knowing I'm going to have to leave them at the end of the school year? Like, I didn't want to be friends with anybody, so I was naturally that kind of dude that kept to myself. I was really shy, really quiet. I was like, I don't want to open up to anybody. And just to try to tie in, the Ridley connection. Once I ended up going to school, because I only went to Newbern for 1 year in Valdosta, and that was sixth grade. And I was on that team with, I don't know if the same teachers were still there, but I had Ridley, Mr. Usher for science. My math teacher was this little bitty lady. I think her name was Mikovits, little bitty lady. And then I actually went out for uh for social studies with I think his name was Coach Hires or something like that. But no, I had a similar situation with Miss Ridley. It was toward, I want to say it was towards the end of our sixth grade year. Um, I just happened to be over at a couple of my buddies' house, and I say a couple of because if they ever listen, I'm gonna shout y'all out too. And I think you know them because that's the Valdosta way. But the Berrien brothers, Will and Willie. I don't know. I think you know them, but
Shout out to them.
yeah, they're my age. We were all in that grade together, and they lived, within like a bike ride of me, like a few blocks. So I was over at their house one day, and we were just out in their driveway hooping. and I'm over here D'ing up. I lose my footing. I fall. And when I fall on my face. I literally like skin up the side of my face. Like I almost like messed my eye up really bad, but like I fell and pulled all the skin off like the side of my, I want to say it was my right eye.
So
Um
like some Harvey Dent type shit.
yeah, basically. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was two-faced for a few days or for a couple of weeks. Let's not, sugarcoat.
Yeah.
So I stayed home from school for maybe like 2, 3 days because I was like, I was like, everybody already looks at me as like this nerdy guy or whatever. Like, I'm like, how bad would it be? I go back to school looking like this. I can't do that. So I
Yeah, you
go
can't
back
just
to
walk in missing half your face, you know.
exactly right. Hey, happy Thursday, whatever. So I go back in and Ridley's class was actually the like, the way we used to rotate the classes.
Yeah, yeah.
I had her the last class of the day. So I had no idea this was about to happen. But I go in and we sit down. I'm still sitting here with bandages on my face, all the whole nine. And come to find out, the last couple of days, classmates had been giving random presentations about life events or just like basically teaching students to work on like narratives.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here and it just so happens that she's doing this crap in alphabetical order. And I show up on the day when she's almost done. Washington, here we go.
Mm.
So she looks at me and she's like, James. And I'm like, oh Jesus. I'm like, what? I haven't been here. Like, what are we doing? Like, what? I haven't. And she's like, and she literally threw out the suggestion in front of the entire class. I will never forget it. And I will quote it just to find fans. Willie, I think Willie was in the class with me. I don't think Will was. Anybody can quote me on this. Tell me if I'm lying. That's the JWJ podcast. So she looks at me and she's like, why don't you just come up? Because she was making us tell the stories in front of the class. She's like, why don't you just come up and tell us what happened to your eye? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to do that because that's embarrassing as shit. But
Yeah, like
okay.
why would you do
I'm
that?
like,
Why would you do
uh,
that to me?
exactly.
Why?
So, but I'm like, I go up there and I do it. And, I tell the story. I'm like, okay, we were playing ball. I fell and da, 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 da. And to me, it was just a super simple, like basic story. And I had a similar moment, just like you did with that exact same teacher. Ridley pulls me aside afterwards and she said almost the same thing to me. She was like, you had no idea I was going to do that. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And she's like, but you came up here and told that story with so much confidence. And I was like, well, that's what happened. Like that, I mean, I don't understand where you're going with this. And she's like, no, that's impressive. And she gave me a lot of the same stuff that she said to you. She's like, you don't get that a lot from students your age. Like you came up here and you didn't seem nervous, which to me at that point, I honestly felt like she was lying to me because one thing that I really struggled with at that point was speaking in front of people. And I'm like, for her to say, like, for her to notice from the outside and to say to me, she was like, it seemed like you weren't nervous at all. I wanted to just be like, you're saying this just to try to make me feel good. I'm not buying it at all. But
We're
but
11. I'm trying to go home play N64.
exactly, like
Like it's a
so
Friday too. I get to play the game. Oh,
well, no, I'm like, I'm sitting here. No, 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 no. Our 11s are different. When I was 11, I don't think we had the 64 yet.
oh yeah, yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. See, keep making my
Uh,
back hurt, Shane. Keep making my back hurt. But but no,
gonna make tears come out my face.
but no, no. To go into your Dallas stuff. Like I said, again, just going back, and I'm definitely fast tracking, my side of things, but I'm bouncing all over the place. And like I said, I'm not really trying to make friends because who knows how long I'm gonna be here, between, I went to schools in Jacksonville, Valdosta, Houston, Oklahoma City. Um, Eventually I tried playing football in Valdosta during that sixth grade year. And I'm not going to say I was terrible, but I'm going to say I was terrified because I'm a sixth grader. They put me at right corner. They had me playing cornerback, shout out to Dion. And he was a big reason why I didn't mind it. I was like, yo, Dion is dope. I was like, yeah,
Prime time.
exactly, the high step. So I was like, I'm with it. Um, it was our scrimmage at the end of summer practices when one of my best friends at the time, I saw him take a super nasty injury, tore his knee up. This is in the sixth grade. And this guy was one of our linemen. Like in sixth grade, he was probably bigger than I am now. Like he was a solid guy. So to see him go down like that, I'm like, football ain't it. And I immediately gave up football right after that. So right at the end of sixth grade, during that summer before seventh started, I moved with my dad out to Vegas. And I'm in Vegas. Everybody out there, the way that people look at football here, that's how people in Vegas look at basketball. So I get there still feeling like I don't have an athletic bone in my body. And I'm just like, man, what's really going on? And all of my friends that I met there were all into basketball. So I'm like, yo, if I'm going to fit in at all, I got to try to figure out something to do with this rock. I got to I have to be able. I need to learn to shoot. I need to learn to dribble. I got to do something. I was like, because I don't know. Another one, it was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here.
Right.
So I was like, I got to make something work. And I think that's when I fell in love with basketball. And that's why I stopped you on the Dallas story, because a lot of people ask me why my favorite team is what it is. And I always tell them, because they always assume, in case y'all haven't been listening, and if you haven't been listening, kick rocks and screw y'all. Anybody that knows me the least bit knows that I am a hardcore, diehard Los Angeles Laker fan. So a lot of people always assume, oh, you're a Laker fan, it's because of Kobe and da, 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 and they make all these assumptions, and I'm like, no, 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 and that's where I lose people. That's where I know who really knows basketball, because I'm like, nah, there's two other guys not named Kobe Bryant that made me fall in love with the game. And at the time living in Vegas, it was one of those situations where, like, here in Georgia, we have Fox Sports South, where you can pick up like all the Atlanta Hawks games and everything. The same way back then, I moved to Vegas in 97. So same situation there. There was Fox Sports West. And you could get games from two different teams. Nobody gave a damn about the Clippers. So I'm watching Laker games. And Shane, we've had this talk a million times over. The two guys that made me actually fall in love with the Los Angeles Lakers. You remember who they were?
Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel.
Let's freaking go. To me, in my era of when I grew up, that was my version of Showtime. Those two guys on the court, Nick the Quick and Eddie Jones, watching those guys work made me fall in love with LA before I even knew who Kobe Bryant was. Watching those guys work together with not even a prime Shaq yet. That was just like a fresh out of Orlando Shaq. And then this Kobe that's coming off a broken wrist, that that's when I fell in love with the game. And that's when I was like, I'm watching this team. Like this is where I am. So that's where I really fell in love with basketball. Um Matter of fact, what made me really feel like it could go somewhere, I wasn't I wasn't that big. I think when I got to Vegas, I was maybe like 5'7". Like I wasn't that big, but a year after being there, I actually made my first basketball team. I don't know if you remember me telling you that, but I actually made my first basketball team. And it was kind of a situation where like they had I guess you could look at it almost as like a G League type thing. Like we had like a county basketball team that had their own little season before the actual school season. So I ended up actually making that team in 8th grade, a year after I had been in Vegas. And that's when I was like, yo, I might actually be okay at this. I might actually I might have finally found something. And and the funniest thing, I know we talked about it a little bit outside. I'm getting sidetracked before I get to the final point, but that's where my favorite number came from. That's where my favorite number came from. And I can't remember if I told you this story, but it's very short, very sweet to the point. And if any of my buddies listen to it, they can definitely agree with it and back up my story. The number that I rock all the time, Shane, as you know, my go-to is the number 10. That's my go-to. That's my thing. Um, but I can't remember if I ever told you why that was my number.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever told me that story. I'm like everybody else. I want to know now.
I will sum it up in 3 words. You ready?
Go ahead.
I was late. Dead serious, bro. That's what it was. So so our first game, our first game of like the county season, we all had to go to this school. Like we all were responsible for getting there ourselves. And let's just say, I can't remember. Let's just say the game was at like 9 that morning. I might have gotten there at like 8:45, 8:50.
Mhm.
And the coach was giving out, like, we didn't play in jerseys for that league. We played in t-shirts. So the coach was giving out the t-shirts at the first game. I was one of the last people to show up. And I pretty much had to go with the shirt that was left that fit me. And
Mhm.
it just happened to be the number 10. So I end up with the number 10. But the main reason that it stuck with me so much is because and I've showed you, Shane, I actually still have that shirt. I
Mm.
I still have that shirt. At this point, that shirt would be what, 20, Jesus, 2016? No, 16. Yeah, my math is bad. About 16 years old. I That shirt is older than some of the kids that I teach right now. Like, no, but the reason that I keep that shirt and the reason that that number means so much to me is because that was the first team in my life that I made that I actually had to try out for.
Yeah.
So that was the first symbol of like, hey, you were good enough to play this sport. Like, no knock, but when I was in Valdosta and I went to go join the football team in 6th grade, they took everybody. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all shouldn't have took me. I sucked. I'm not afraid to say it. I sucked. I wasn't built for football. It is what it is. But knowing that I moved to Vegas in 97, I'm working on the handles, working on the jumper, doing everything I can, working defensively. And then a year later, I actually had to go try out and made a team. That is why that number always means so much to me to this day. Because even though I got the number by mistake, I got the shirt slash jersey
The
because,
jersey.
yeah, because I had worked to actually make it to that final roster. So that number is always going to stick with me. Fast forward, I end up back in Valdosta. Very long story. I had been at VSU because we going to let Shane jump back in. I had been back at VSU. I was a bum. I had been back at VSU since 2004. And I originally wanted to go to school for biology. My initial plan was to major in pre-med. I had the doctor track, all of that. That fell off very quickly for reasons that don't need to be discussed here because whatever. But I went through some years where I had no idea what I was going to do, but it was a similar path to what you've been saying. Like while I was at VSU, I had some English professors that would kind of compliment my writing, this, that, whatever. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, because I was an undeclared major at VSU for a while. And I was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And following guys like, the one that always stuck out to me, Stuart Scott, rest in peace. Um,
Love
I
you,
was
Stu.
like, I was like, I mean, cooler than the other side of the pillow. I was like, I want to try to do something like him. And I didn't at that time, I didn't look deep enough, and I knew that our school had a mass media department. So I went over and started taking mass media classes. But after one semester, I was like, this isn't what I was thinking. I was like, y'all are teaching me how to focus cameras and how to angle things and lighting. And I was like, that's not really what I was trying to do. And then my advisor at the time was like, well, what are you trying to do? And I was like, I want to kind of be the person that's actually doing the reporting. Like, I want to actually write stories and do this and this and that. And they were like, well, have you checked out our journalism department? And I sat back for a minute and then I was like, nigga, what? I was like, at, that was literally me realizing that our school even had a journalism department. I didn't know. So I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, seriously? And he was like, yeah, you need to go over. It's actually under the English department. And I was like, that's why I didn't know. Like, like, I had no idea. So he's like, go talk to, he sent me over. First off, he sent me over to talk to, I'm sure you remember Dr. Hall.
Yeah.
He sent me to talk to Dr. Hall. And Dr. Hall eventually sent me to talk to Dr. Miller. And next thing you know, next thing you know,
They need to cue the horror movie music. Na,
right,
na, Killer
right.
Miller.
Where's Jaws when you need him? So,
God,
so,
just sent a
so,
chill up my spine.
hey,
God.
next thing you know, I'm a journalism major, and now we can segue into editing for publications. That's
Editing for
I where I
publications.
see this random
Now,
guy.
so here's the deal with editing for publications. Now, I will say, having been out of college almost 10 years, um, of all the classes I took at VSU in the journalism curriculum, I think the one class that I think has made the most difference for me in my career was editing for publications because, I'm in my about it'll be 8 years in December that I've been doing this professionally. I did it in my last like 3 years of college, and I've been doing it 8 years now as a professional.
You
Now,
started in December? I don't know why I
yeah,
felt like it was earlier than that.
no, so like yeah, so
Okay.
like yeah, so like when I got hired at VDT to get my first like paid like real thing,
Right.
it was December of 2016, and
Okay.
so I was just out of college and I was working at a sporting goods store and
Hmm.
making 850 and not really sure. Like I honestly, I had freelance stuff. I worked for the Spectator, which was VSU's student newspaper. I covered men's basketball for the Spectator, and so shout out to the Spectator, that group. Shout out to our guy Eric who works at Sportico. Uh,
Listen,
he's getting a
that
chance
was
to
that
talk
was
to
a
all the
legend.
big names.
That was a legendary class, bro. Like,
Yeah, so if y'all follow like Sportico and the business side of sports, you probably know who Eric Jackson is. He's talked to some of the
ooh,
most important, influential people, and he's important because he was actually my sports editor at the Spectator, and so
school,
he's the first editor I worked on, and so
school.
shout out to school, and he was the one that actually assigned me the beat, like in another class. I think I had journalism seminar when I found out I was actually going to be a part of the actual student newspaper. And so I actually started out, I got assigned the women's basketball beat to cover Valdosta State. And so it was me and a guy, Chris Kessler. And we had decided, like, I think Scoop had assigned him the men's beat, and I got the women's. And after like a day, maybe even two, he's like, "Yeah, so we switching that. I'm gonna put you on men's. I'm gonna put Chris on women's." Story there is history. Like I covered Valdosta State from the end, like the second half of the 2012-13 season up until I accepted this position in Pennsylvania. Like I started in college and then kept that beat like after college and as a professional. So Valdosta State basketball means a lot to me. Shout out to Coach Helfer and all those guys because
Hell for the
he's still
goat.
there. He's still
Hell,
there. The GOAT is still there.
hell
Over
for the
500 wins. He's still there.
hell for the goat.
Yeah, shout out to them. I hope they have a great season. I miss covering games at the complex, but
Mm-hmm.
um, by the way, the best atmosphere on game day of any Division II school in the country. Quote me on that. So, and shout out to Matt Malone for being the PA guy because he is excellent.
Definitely.
Um, but yeah, so that's where my journey into my career began is at Valdosta State and editing for publications, the class that me and James took together. That class probably taught me more about my craft than I've ever of any other class I've taken. That's the one I learned the most from because it allowed me to become a writer that could self-edit and write really clean copy. I think that's one thing I've been praised for over my career is anybody who proofs my stuff, they always say, man, like I hardly had to do anything. You write really clean copy. And
So,
that's one I think that's one of the best compliments you can get as a sports writer, as a writer, period, is somebody reads your stuff and they don't see a bunch of typos, they don't see a lot of mistakes. So I take a lot of pride in that, and that's because of that class.
of course,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So
Now, Shane.
mhm.
Let's talk about the assignment,
All
Shane.
right, let's get into it.
so so I you can help me, clarify on this. I remember a lot of the details, but first off, do you remember what the actual assignment was? Because I don't. I ain't gonna lie. I
I
don't
don't
remember.
either. I don't
Okay.
either.
The
I just
only
know.
the only thing I know is that we had to partner up with somebody to do it.
Yeah, and
I
so this is how it worked, and I'm sure everybody listening to this will know how this worked out. Okay, so
uh
my last name is Thomas. James's last name is Washington. Now, when they said
well
people, we were the way we were sitting, right? So James, we weren't seated in alphabetical order, but I remember James was on the back row of that class.
oh
I was,
I always sat in the back. I
I
always sat in
think
the back.
he was on the back row, and I was on the row in front of him,
Yeah.
like off to the left. And so when they said everybody partner up, most of the people like kind of just, you know, picked,
Because a lot of
whoever
them
was near them.
yeah, I was gonna say because a lot of them already knew each other.
No, no, yeah, yeah. So here's what happened. So a lot of them, I remember it now. So a lot of them were picked to partner up. So a lot of people were assigned partners, right?
Were
And
they?
so yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't recall. I thought that
yeah,
people just had to pick partners.
yeah. Like what
And
happened was like I think Miller said that um she went ahead and like assigned people partners. And so some
mm-hmm.
people just went and a lot of people sat next to each other. And so what ended up happening was um somehow me and you weren't on the list. So then that's how we actually ended up partnered up. She's like, "Well,
See,
Shane, you partner up with James. We were the last people to become partners. Everybody else had partners, but us."
hmm.
And so yeah, like that's how it happened. And so
Yeah,
like
I'm tripping. I don't remember it that way.
yeah,
I thought it was a kind of thing where like people were just able to partner up with whoever
yeah, like some people, yeah, like
and we just kind of fell back.
yeah, right. Like it was like
Like
because it
we
was
were
one of
just
those
kind of like the
deals. Yeah,
leftovers because neither one of us was like that, like out there to just go and find a partner.
right. Because
Like,
I think a big part of it was like a lot of those people that were actually in that class already were like already on spectator staff.
yeah,
So
okay.
like a lot of them were getting partnered up because they knew each other, and Miller knew of them because she was the head of it.
Okay,
We weren't in it
that
yet.
makes sense.
That makes sense. So like me and you weren't in it yet, right?
Right,
So
right, right,
so like we didn't get in there until we both ended up in seminar.
right.
So we ended up partnered on this whole project. Now,
Shout out to Keith.
so I'm gonna paint the picture for y'all. All right, so it's early
Well,
2012.
remember, keep in mind
Mm-hmm.
the actual story you're about to tell didn't jump off until we got to Odom.
Right.
It would
So
because I already know where you're going. I already
yeah,
know where you're going.
so here's the deal. So like I'd seen James in class, right? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work. So like
We were both
James was
super
in there,
we were both super low key. We both never really
right?
spoke out. We were just
And
there to
so
make sure we were there.
right, and so James was in there, and I'll never forget. So he had a black Laker fitted cap with Laker and white, like the logo, all that on the front, right? So he's sitting there. James wears glasses, and he looked like the one person that's like, if you come anywhere near me, I'm cutting your shit up. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I don't know anybody. Like, and this has got to be my partner. Now, the funniest shit about this. Here's the funny part.
Oh God.
So like we get partnered up and we have to, we agree to meet in Odom to work on this, right?
Uh-huh. I can't
And
remember if it was
so
that same day or
it was like we got
it
partnered
might have
up and
been.
we had to work on it on our own time.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
we just said like we'll meet at Odom such time, right?
And I remember it was spring semester, so it was around that
Yeah.
time when Valdosta finally decided to be cold.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm there
We're both wearing
and
hoodies.
yeah, we're both wearing hoodies. Now, this is where our fandom comes in. So James is there with his Laker cap on. And he's
and
got
the
his
and the hoodie.
and he's got a hoodie and the sweats. So me, given this was spring semester 2012.
Yeah,
So this was
yeah.
like right after this was right after the Mavs had won the championship in 2011, and there was the lockout situation.
And they had put out in the second round they had
Yeah, so
put
in the
out
second round, if you remember 2011,
yeah,
um,
yeah, you
Mavs
son of a
Mavs
yeah.
Mavs swept
Make it
LA
make it
on their
make
way.
make it make it quick. Make it quick.
Okay.
Make make it
So
make it make it quick before I send Andrew Bonham your way. Make it quick.
oh, funny you mentioned that. So game four,
Yeah.
Dallas won by 40 and
Yeah, bring that
swept
up.
him out, ended Phil Jackson's coaching career. And I couldn't believe it. It was one of those things. I remember I blogged about it. I used to have a blog on Tumblr called the
So
Ballers Manifesto. The real ones know.
I had set one up on Blogger called the Educator's Blackboard.
Yeah. So like
I had one going back there too.
yeah. So like I had predicted that the Mavs would beat the Lakers in seven. That was my prediction. I had no idea they were going to sweep LA. So
Fast
at that,
forward, damn it.
yeah. So um, fast forward to us working on that project. So I go to meet James in the library. So I walk in now. James,
That happened to be named Odom, spelled
yeah,
different, but shout out
yeah,
to Lamar.
Odom with a U.
Yeah, shout out to Lamar.
Yeah. So James is sitting there. He's got his Laker hoodie. He's got his Laker hat. Now I come in and I'm decked the fuck out. I come in. I got one of those cool like the hats you saw Dirk Nowitzki and all those dudes wearing after they won the title in 11. I had like an NBA champions hat.
Y'all can't see
Um,
me, but I'm full Eminem middle
yeah,
fingers right now.
yeah.
Never
So I
forget.
come in. I got my 2011 NBA champions special finals hat, like with the gray with the
The
black
hoodie.
bill.
It was the hoodie that pissed me off, man.
I still have my hoodie that says 2011 NBA champion.
It was the hoodie, man.
I had the hat on. I had the hoodie on, right? Underneath it, I had a Mavs shirt on, like a long sleeve Mavs deal on, and I had a pair of the blue swingman shorts.
Yep.
So like,
Yeah.
it was one of them like, I got class at 11, but I'm about to suit up for the Mavs at 12. Like it was one of
Yeah,
them situations.
yeah, for real, for real.
So basically, if y'all could picture this was like a turf war situation. Like
But the funniest thing about it though is and this is eventually for everybody that's listening, this is eventually what led the way to like one of the dopest friendships of my life.
yeah,
Um
and
I I knew we had to get this assignment done, and I think that Shane knew the exact same thing. So we sat down, we ignored the attire. We got to work, did what we had to do, and it wasn't until after we were done, we submitted, we did everything we needed to do. I had come across, of course, as a Laker fan, you're going to have so many people that are naturally one way or the other. That's how it always goes. No knock on Dallas. Dallas isn't spoken about as often, but at the time they're the defending freaking champs. So it is what it is. So I had so many people come across me in Valdosta in the past few years that were, if you're familiar, oh, they're Boston fans, they're Orlando fans, they're San Antonio fans. Anything to avoid
Miami.
Miami, anything to avoid mentioning the Lakers. So the whole time we're working on this assignment, I'm just looking at this dude's gear and I'm like, this mother. So as soon as we finish, we submit it. We're sitting in the lab. I literally turned, I looked at the dude and I was like, so how long you been a Dallas fan? I was like, so like because I had to ask the question. I'm like, because as soon as this dude tells me that it's anything under a year, I'm going in because I'm like, if you really just went to Foot Locker and just emptied your bank account because they just want a ring, I'm about to flame the hell out of you. Like I was ready to go because
It
of course
was
I'm
it was
because of
it was
course
asked with like the if you could picture this was like the bombastic side eye of all bombastic side eyes.
because of
Like this
course
dude looked at me like he looked at me like the fuck, and he's like looking at me. He kind of has this look on his face like
because of
I
course
want
I'm
him to say something I don't like.
because of course I'm still
I want him to say something crazy.
right because of course I'm still bitter for obvious
Yeah,
reasons because look,
yeah.
anybody, I still have people that come to me now. I was in Valdosta a couple of months ago, and one of my cousins like came to me. He saw me and he was like, "Hey, man, so you still a Laker fan?" I'm like, "You've known me my whole life. Like, so you've known that for like almost the last 20 years, it
Right.
ain't switched up. Like,
Ain't no
why? Like,
switching up. Ain't
it
no
no,
switching
it's
up.
not going anywhere. That's my squad. I'm purple
Right.
and gold. I'm sorry. Was it Laker blue?
Forum blue.
Forum blue. You know,
Yeah.
no, I ain't
Purple
going
and gold.
nowhere. So, but no, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, no, I gotta question this nigga. Like, yeah, I'm like, because I'm literally about to meet the first Dallas fan I've ever met in my damn life. I'm like, get your ass over here.
I was honestly, little side note on that. I was one of like two Dallas fans at VSU.
And
I
I never
actually there was
and
some
I never
dude,
met the other one.
right? There was some dude. I met him in the rec, right? And I forget his name, but he was saying he was a Dallas fan. Now, granted, he was saying he was a Dallas fan. He might have been the one that was like the fair weather just jumped on the bandwagon for all I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Me, James was bitter about he was looking at me with the bitterness. Like I said, the most
And then
bombastic of side eyes.
we had the conversation.
Yeah. So he's looking at me and he already has that. He's asking me, he's like, so how long you been a Dallas fan? Almost like some, what's all this shit about? And so
It was basically the equivalent of like in the movies you see if like some random person just like accidentally like shows up in South Central LA wearing red
it's like that.
and
Yeah,
then you have like a
it's like
crip
that.
roll up
Yeah.
on them like, what's up, blood?
It's like that. It's like that
It was
scene.
basically
It was dead ass like the it was like an alternate version of that scene from The Wood
yes,
where like Mike shows up with like his Carolina Panthers hat or whatever.
yes.
It was kind of like that.
I think it was a UNC hat.
Something, yeah. It
And
was
they
one of them, yeah.
and he was like, "What's up, blood?" Yeah, and he immediately took that off.
Right, right. And so I'm assuming that given James's tone, it had a tone of take that shit off. But
Oh, it was definitely. I was definitely mad.
right.
I was like, clearly, like in my mind, I'm like, clearly you know hoops, but the fact that you're rocking Dallas stuff in South Georgia
Right.
in
Because
early
that's
2012,
right.
I was like, nah, we got to talk about this.
Yeah. And so that's when I gave him the whole rundown. So like I started out as a Laker fan because pretty much everybody in my family like loved the Lakers. Even my auntie, like who didn't really watch basketball at all, if she had to pick a team, she was picking the Lakers. Like my uncle was a big Laker fan. My cousin, who's like a big brother to me, shout out to Duran. Like they all love the Lakers. And so I kind of accepted the Lakers as like my team for like, when I really started to kind of watch basketball. So like around this time, I'd say it was like 2000, 2001. And so the Lakers had already, they were in the midst of their three-peat, Shaq was there and Kobe and all that. And so
May 26, 2002.
right.
Greatest moment of my life as a Laker fan. Shout
And
out to
and to,
you, Mr.
and
Robert Ory.
right. And the funny thing is that I was watching that game with my cousin, and I'll never forget it. We were watching it,
My
and we just hear
17th birthday.
right, and we hear the call of, Bryant puts the move on Christie. comes up short, rebound O'Neal, ball gets
Blotty.
batted out,
Blotty bats it out.
and then Ori's wide open for three, and he
Bam.
hits it. And so me and my cousin lose it because, like I said, we were like into it. And so that was my first like major moment as a basketball fan
I
was
had no I
watching.
had I had no voice at school the next day.
Right. So like, yeah, so I that was my first like NBA moment that I remember, and I remember like going crazy about it. Was Ori hitting the game winning three in that game.
Absolutely.
And so after that year, so that was like what 2002, right? So um
Yeah, O2.
yeah, so after that, I had started my cousin, obviously this was when NBA Live was still a reputable franchise. And so we would play NBA Live. And so he would always pick the Lakers. And so I didn't want to pick the Lakers too. So I would just go through and honestly, um, I would just pick Dallas because I thought the logo was cool, right? Because this was when they first got the horse head logo. And
Not
I
just
thought the
into the logo.
yeah, so like I thought the logo was dope, right? And here no no so
Okay.
so here, no so here, here's where it gets crazy. So like to do like a hard rewind and then a fast forward. I go back to like when I think it was like I was like 7 and we had a Sega, right? And so we had it was
I'll be
like
7.
yeah, and then I'll be 7. And so like I was like 7 years old and we had I think it was like Tecmo NBA or something. It was one of those games, I can't remember. And so I didn't know any of the teams. I didn't know anyone, right? And one of the teams I would pick was Dallas. Keep in mind, I had not watched the NBA at that point. I knew of Michael Jordan, that was it.
Super
And I knew
random
he would,
super
yeah.
random segue. Back in the day on NBA Jam, I used to pick Phoenix all the time just because I thought that Dan Marley had like the most unique name. Like I always that's why I
I
would
thought
pick
I thought it
Phoenix.
was I thought it was I thought it was Majerle for the longest time.
Me too. Like
Um,
me too.
yeah,
But I would always pick him because I was just like, his name is weird. He has to be good.
yeah. And so I don't know how I would always land on the game because I wanted to pick the Bulls, but the thing is, Michael Jordan was like a hidden character. He was like number 99 or 45 or something, right?
Hmm.
And so if I didn't pick the Bulls, I would always end up landing on the Mavericks because they had the whole like the M with the hat on it. I don't know why. I would just pick that team. So then you fast forward to 2002 and I'm playing NBA Live '02, and I'd pick the Mavericks. I mean, I'd seen them on TV, whatever. I'd pick the Mavericks, and they had 41 Nowitzki on the team. And whenever I shot with Nowitzki, he would never miss. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So like the same week of me playing this game, the Mavericks had a game against like the Timberwolves or the Clippers or something. It was like back when they had games on TBS.
Yeah.
And so it was, I remember Dirk, like, I think he made like his first like 9 shots or something crazy like that. Like he couldn't miss. And so they were running and gunning. Steve Nash was the point guard. Dirk is like hitting threes and like rebounding and running the break. And I hear them. I was like, man, that's a big dude. And they're like, yeah, Nowitzki, 7-footer, bringing the ball up the court. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. So like
Yeah,
they had
you
like
weren't getting that a lot then. Yeah.
right. So like, and then it's like white dudes. And so it's like, okay, like,
Right.
obviously as a hoop fan, if you see a white dude out there hoop, and this I'm not trying to make this racial, but like you see a white dude out there and he's balling, like you're gonna notice. You're gonna notice.
Right.
And so they had like two of
Understandable.
them. So they had two of them. They had Nash and Nowitzki, and they worked really well together. And so they had like 2 games on a particular week. And I was like, man, like this team is really fun. And so this was around the time, like I said, the Lakers had already like three-peated. And I don't know, I kind of fell out of like the Laker fan part of it because it just felt like they had kind of got to that point where they were like, okay, we feel like we can kind of just turn it on. Like we've won it, we've been here before, we'll be good when it matters. But then I started seeing these Mavs games. Like I said, it was like a couple on in that week. And I was watching them play. I was like, man, like they play a fun style. Like, they run and gun. They don't play defense for shit. But they shoot a lot of threes, and it's fun. And
Mhm.
Nowitzki just captivated me. And so that became like my team. And so I would pick them all the time in NBA Live, and I'd be whooping people with that team. And so that's how I kind of got into the Mavericks, is watching Dirk and seeing his come up as a player, seeing Steve Nash run the show. And so those were my two favorite players. And this was also around the time when I started to take to the game. And
Mhm.
so like, because I mean it's a classic like story, and I don't want to get too long, but it's like I was in like sixth, seventh grade, and we play basketball in PE. I was fucking terrible. I was awful. Put it like this:
Weren't we all? Weren't we
I would
all?
get, I would get picked up because I was tall, and
Hey,
then
think about it. You
immediately
could be me, and you didn't get picked up at all because I didn't have that height advantage.
it was bad. So like I said, I mean, I had a big fro. I was like gangly, awkward. I was just tall. I had no skills. I'd never really played ball at all outside of like in the backyard with neighbors. And so like I would get so embarrassed when we play ball because I would end up somehow at the 3 point line. They pass me the ball and I'm like, fuck it, I'm shooting it.
Of course.
I didn't hit the rim for like 2 years. Like I ain't even fronting. Like I did not hit the rim in PE of all the time at Newbern Middle School, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. I didn't make a shot in PE, period, until like I was in my eighth grade year.
See, it was
Every
funny.
time I shot the ball, it went over the back.
It was funny. I had a moment in sixth grade in PE, and I'll never forget it. Um, we were it was basically like a drill game where we had two teams coming in from the wing. We had to dribble in to the elbow, take a jumper. You make it, it's a point. You miss it, whatever. Regardless, you got to go get your rebound, pass it back out to the next person, and we rotate. Um, can't remember what we were playing to. Let's just say we were playing to like 10. So my team is up 9 to, we'll say, 7 or 8. Like it was still a close game. And on this day, it's one of those where, I mean, anybody listening to this from Valdosta, the game is being officiated by Coach McFadden. That's all I'm gonna say. If you know, you
Okay.
know. So shout out to McFadden. Um, on this day, I'm wearing some jeans, and the belt that I was wearing broke.
Mm-hmm.
Pants were too big. So I literally had to go up. I get the ball. Shane, I kid you not. I'm sitting here holding my shirt, like holding my pants, dribbling with one hand, holding my pants. I had to go up and hoist the ball on some like Jeremy Sohan type, like from the elbow. And Shane, it was nothing but net.
Mm-hmm.
That was my memory from Newbern. Like I, with like my pants about to fall off of me, hoisted this one handed and just happened to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even feel good about it because I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm like, let's be real. I'm like, I knew I wasn't supposed to hit that. I
Yeah. It's
whatever.
it's crazy because um like I said, I went like 2 years. I didn't make a shot. Like every time I shot, it would go over the goal. I had no like skills at all. And so between seventh and eighth grade year, that's when I started watching the Mavericks. And so I started watching, like I said, I would see this was kind of like this was a little bit before like YouTube and stuff. And so I saw Nash and Dirk on TV. So I was trying to shoot like Dirk. And so literally just like seeing Dirk shoot the ball, I tried to pattern my shot just like his. like the deep knee bend, kind of shot from, above my head, whatever. Like I tried to shoot just like it. And so after going 0 for 2 years, um, I found myself in 8th grade. I was in Miss McFadden's class. And so like I started going to this after school program, Boys and Girls Club. And so like I get a lot of time to just shoot. And so I got to the point where I couldn't do shit else, but I could hit a shot from the left wing. I could bang threes from the left wing like nobody's business, right? So I get in that class. Keep in mind, like I said, I was
Shooter on
0
the
for two
wing,
years.
folks.
Right. I was the original shooter on the wing before I met my guy. So
Shooter on the wing.
every time I was left wing, if you put me on that spot, I could bang it. And so that one particular day, we probably played games that whole PE period. And no lie, I probably made like 8, 9 threes from that spot. I had never made shot in PE ever. And then all of a sudden, like I'm drilling everything, right? And so Miss McFadden, she was actually like the girls' basketball coach at New Bern at the time. And she was impressed. She was like, I've never seen you shoot like that. But it was funny though, because I couldn't dribble. I had no concept of footwork yet. But if you put me spotting up on the left wing, I was banging. If I took one step to the left, I couldn't make it. But if I was dead on left wing, boom. And so that was a new feeling because suddenly I was the dude that was making shots in PE. And it's all because like I fell in love with the Mavericks. So fast forward, I've been a Mavericks fan since 2002. Watched Dirk's pretty much his whole career because I want to say it was like his 4th year or so when I started watching the team, third, 4th year. And I followed him up until he retired in 2019. So that's how I became a Mavs fan. And so like I was there for '06 when we blew the 2-0 lead against Miami. I was the fan in '03 when we went to the conference finals and lost to San Antonio. That was tough because I still hate Steve Kerr a little bit and Steven Jackson for that because they went crazy in the closeout game. And Dirk got hurt in I think game 3 or 2 or 3 of that series. Ginobili fell on his knee. To this day, I still feel like if Dirk hadn't got hurt, we probably would have won that series and we could have beat New Jersey in the finals. That's how I feel.
Anybody,
Um,
I feel like anybody could have beaten anybody out of the West could have beaten New Jersey.
yeah, so like
I mean, no knock on Jersey, but
right. I mean they had a squad, but I feel like we
yeah,
could have
they
won.
did. But I
And
just feel like the
so
West, it was still so West heavy around
yeah,
that
like I
time.
mean, I mean the West was gonna win regardless.
Yeah,
So like that was kind of my journey. I'd been through '06, '07 losing to Golden State the next year. The 2 years like
we
'08,
believe.
'09, where things just didn't go our way. 2010 when I thought we would break through. I think that was when we had first made the trade and got like Karan Butler and Brendan Haywood and all them. 2010, Rick
Karan,
Carlisle.
he wasn't there for a super long time, but
Right.
Karan Butler is gonna low key be one of my favorite Lakers.
Right. And so, like 2010, I thought we could have done it, but it was kind of like, we had just got the roster together. Like we didn't have like bigs yet, really. And so going into 2011, that's when we got Tyson Chandler and everything started to click. We ended up winning the championship. And so being a Mavs fan who had seen all the disappointments and all the first round exits and all the stuff and seeing Dirk constantly come back and put it on his back time and time again. So like when they won in 2011, it was really, really special. I cried, I ain't gonna lie. Because I was that into it. And so that's where my fandom came from. So then when we confront each other and we have to work together, it's
Mm-hmm.
literally like my squad just swept his squad on the
We
way to the championship.
and
And
and the, and
so
the thing, yeah, and the thing that solidified it all was literally we sat in the parking lot for easily what 3-4 hours.
yeah, so like
The
the
library had
conversation,
closed.
yeah. So the conversation started in the library. We finished the assignment. We were still talking. I went to Chick-fil-A to eat. We sat there in the student union
Yeah,
talking then.
yeah,
Then he's like, all right, I gotta go. We went to his car.
and we just
We
sat
still
there,
talking.
like we
So we
just
were out there
sat
for like
there.
2, 3 years. And so we're just sharing our stories about like our fandom and like where it came from. And so I knew after that long conversation we had, after we got to know each other, about our fandom, and like he realized I was a real fan and I cared about
It was
hoop and
like, yeah,
everything
we
else.
we both knew something was there.
Right. And
We
so
both
yeah, like I've told other people the story, and I'll share it with y'all. I mean, I knew then after that long conversation we had that I had made a friend for life.
And it's funny.
Um,
It's funny, bro. It's funny. I'm gonna fast forward real quick. I and first off, that that means the world, like shit right there. That's what's up. I love that. Um, that was actually gonna be the question that I was gonna hit you with.
mhm.
I was gonna ask you, just on a friendship level, when you knew that like it was on that level for us. That
Yeah,
was good. That was the question I was gonna hit you with.
yeah. I
But
think
you
like that first day, the first conversation, like it was different because like I said, we connected. It was the first friend other than like my boy Rashad, who me and him grew up, together playing ball.
mm,
Like that was like the first like friend I made through ball.
mm,
But like when like me and you connected on it, it was like, we're grown at this point. Like
right.
we're in college, we're trying to get our degrees, we're going
Yeah.
through hell. And
Yeah.
so that was the first friend I made really in college, period.
I'm gonna tell
Like
you, like,
yeah.
it's funny. It's funny because perfect segue, because we had already planned out to talk about this anyway.
Mhm.
I already considered you a friend at that point, but I'm gonna flip it on myself, and where I knew for a fact that you were somebody that I knew would be a friend for life was the night of the Grove.
Oh, the Grove.
So,
Tell this
so,
story. This is good.
okay. I have to preface it by saying that prior to us going to the Grove, and I'll explain the Grove for anybody that's not familiar. Prior to the Grove, my grandfather had passed away. He passed away in October of 2012. At this point, Shane and I had really been acquainted for only what, about 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so my grandfather had passed away, and it had been pretty much tradition in our family to where when a grandparent passes away, the pallbearers are gonna be in order, the oldest grandsons.
Mhm.
So with my grandfather, I would have been one of the pallbearers. So another thing about my family, we all love ball. I mean, we all hoop. It's just what we do. Like if we get together, we're gonna try to find a park. If not, we'll go to Walmart and buy a goal and just put that bitch together and just stack it up in somebody's driveway. Like we're gonna find a reason to hoop. So we were like, hey, let's go to the Grove. The Grove was an apartment complex not far from where my grandparents lived in Valdosta. And they had a full basketball court. They had a full court there. So we're like, yeah, let's go over there, let's play some ball. And this was maybe like, I think either the day before or maybe like 2 days before my grandfather's funeral.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah. It was
had
at
been,
least, yeah, it was at least like 2 days, I think.
yeah, we had been at my grandfather's house. You know how black folks do. We're over there frying fish and cooking it up and doing every, we're all together doing our thing. And all the guys are like, hey, y'all, let's go to the Grove. Let's go, let's go hoop. Let's go play some ball. Shane was there. You were there because at that point, he's being a good friend. Like he's there being supportive. So
Yeah. He was
soon,
like, he
soon
was like, yes, so we're doing this. You trying to hoop?
so yeah, and as soon as my cousins are like, yo, we finna go play some ball, I look at Shane, I'm like, hey, you want to go? And Shane's like, bet, let's go. So Shane hops in the car. We all go out to the Grove. We go. And we're out there playing. We're going. Now, the way the Grove is set up, I got to preface this. The way the Grove is set up, full court, baseline to baseline is totally fine. On one side, the long way is basically like the apartments. So you better be damn careful over there, because if you run over too far, you just smacking into a wall and you look like a dumbass. Now, on the other side, there's metal bleachers right there, maybe within like 5 feet of like the out of bound, like the sideline. So there's a particular play where the ball gets smacked, it's going over towards the bleachers. I go running because we're hustlers. I'm like, I go running. I go running trying to get the ball. At the last minute, I realize I'm not going to get the ball. So I stop. And when I stop, I plant a little too hard and I rolled the holy hell out of my ankle. I went down like a freaking pile of leaves. I go down. I'm done. I go down. I think people probably on the other side of the complex heard me yell. Like, as soon as I go down, I'm like, like my ankle is,
I knew it was
hey,
bad right away.
my ankle is done. And the crazy thing is, within 48 hours, I'm supposed to be a pallbearer. Like, I'm supposed to get up and help send my grandfather off. But I will say, in that moment, and Shane, I don't think I ever actually told you this before, but in that moment, that was when I realized that I had a friend for life. Because when I went for that ball, when I fell, I'm on the ground. There were 3 people that came to help me up. It was Tuffy, my brother, my nephew Maurice, and you, with no hesitation. Soon as I realized that you were right there, that's when it clicked for me. And that's because I think a lot of people don't understand that there's so many things that can happen within sports that translate to life. And in that moment for me, I was like, yeah, he's here to help me off of the ground because I just got hurt. But he wouldn't have been here in the first place if he wasn't here because I just lost my grandfather. And in that moment, that's when I was like, this guy here, like, this is my dude.
Yeah.
Like,
We carried you to the car, got you in there.
literally, because I couldn't walk on it.
Right.
I couldn't even walk on it.
It was rough.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I remember we left there, we ended up going back to like your grandparents' house.
Yeah, over there on Windsor, over
Yeah,
there on
and
the south
that's
side.
when and that was actually like my first time really meeting your family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a crucial moment just because it was like, you
Even
know,
my dad was there.
right. And like I
That
said,
was,
I'd never met anybody in James's family. Like I think about it now, and like, yeah, I'm trying to think because I feel like we may have hooped at the Grove almost before we even started hooping at the Rec together.
I believe so.
Yeah, I feel like we had
I
never even played ball together at that point yet.
Yeah, I think that might have been the first time. And that's why, and like I say, that's why that moment was so significant for me.
Right.
Because I'm like, of everybody there, and it's absolutely not to disparage anybody else. It was like I went down and immediately I saw people rushing. And like I said, it was tough. It was Maurice and you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the fact that this dude didn't even hesitate, like just immediately, boom, he's over here.
Yeah.
I was just like, yo, like,
And plus, like, if like not even like joking, but the scream was crazy. Like it was
bro,
like, yo,
yo, it hurt. I
because it was one of
honestly,
those where like where he was going, where like where you were going, was like you were like going like hard to that sideline. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, like I didn't exactly see the roll.
I
I
was
saw
afraid I had
you,
broke something.
yeah, like I saw you
I
run in that direction.
yeah.
And then like I think I like took my eye off it or somebody was in the way at first and I just hit a screen. And I'm like, oh shit. So like, like I said, I run over there because I wasn't sure what exactly had happened.
I was
And then I
I
saw you were holding your ankle and I was like, oh yeah.
I never knew what it would have felt like. I was afraid that I had broken my ankle.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
it hurt it hurt that bad. And I
Yeah, because
mean,
I'd seen people hurt their ankles before, but I'd never like heard anybody scream out like that. So I thought like for sure I was like, oh, we might end up having to go to the hospital.
yeah,
Like that's the
right.
first thing I was
Like
thinking. Like,
I'll thank God. Look, thank God. Do you remember the shoes I was wearing?
oh yeah, it was yeah, the old trusty hyperdogs.
I was wearing the hyperdogs. like and look, and that was a big part of it because I never took it off. We got back to the house and Tuffy, and matter of fact, Tuffy and my dad, they were both like, yo, don't take that shoe off yet. Because I was ready to take it off and put some ice on it. They were like, don't take it off yet. And I think that advice is what saved me. I'll have to go scroll back through Facebook, but I still have pictures of my ankle.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
I think their advice is the reason that, limping or not, I was still able to help carry that casket.
Yeah.
Because ain't no way I was gonna miss that. That
And you know what's funny about that?
mm,
Because see, I still remember that too. So like, so you couldn't take the shoe off.
mm,
And like I said, I'd met like your cousins and like most of your family that was over there.
mm.
We still like there was no it's funny because even though you were hurt, there was no like sense of urgency after that.
Not at all. Hell no.
We
Hell no.
literally like sat out like
We just
outside
hadn't
the
we
house
just hadn't
talking for like
chilled.
so like he's sitting there on one foot and we're out there just like
Just
chopping it
had
up
it,
like
just
it
had
was
it,
just like the first
just had it propped up on a folding chair. Like
yeah.
everything was
Yeah,
good.
and we just out there still talking, and somehow, it ended up in some conversation about like somebody trying to say they'd go with T Mac over Kobe or something weird. Like
That was probably Brent. That
I
was
think it
probably
was Brent.
because
I think it was
Brent's a
Brent.
huge
Yeah,
Brent is a huge T Mac fan. So I'm
yeah,
sure it was Brent. I'm
yeah,
sure it was
yeah. So like,
Brent. If
so
you
like, yeah,
listening, shout out, boy.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to Brent, man. And yeah, so like this whole, that was kind of our first like real experience like hooping together, and like I said, it just kind of blossomed from there. And so like, eventually like I let him know that like, I'm in the gym like a lot and like come shoot with me like one morning or whatever. 'Cause I would go to the gym like between classes. And so yeah, we
And
got in there and
the thing on my side, at that point, my mom actually still worked at
yeah,
the school. My
right,
mom
right.
worked at BSU.
Yeah,
So at
yeah.
that point, she was in when we met, she was working in, I think she was still in the testing office.
Hmm.
She worked in the testing office. Eventually she went over to fine arts before she
Yeah,
retired.
right.
But at the time she was in the testing office. So I would be on campus a lot because I might be bringing my mom breakfast or just for whatever reason. So there would be days where I would just like, bring her what she wanted. And then like we would just be in the gym by like 8:15, 8:30
Yeah.
in the morning because it didn't open till what? It didn't open till 8, I believe.
Well, no, yeah,
So,
it would open at like 6, but we'd be like the first people in there.
well, yeah.
Like we'd be
So,
the
because
only
I
ones
know,
in there.
so
Yeah,
my mom, well, yeah, rephrase. My mom had to be to work by 8. So we'd normally be in the gym by like 8:15, 8:30, and we were just going.
yeah,
Like we were just in there. It's like, yeah, let's run this drill. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And that just solidified it even more that it's like we both actually really love this. We
yeah.
both really love this game.
Yeah, and I mean, it just it kind of from there it just became like okay, like you know, at first we were just like working out together, like, getting shots up. And then eventually we started playing like games. And then I had other friends I'd met through ball. And so like, my friends met his friends and, shout out to our guy Matt.
Bro,
Uh,
so many, Matt. Look, I gotta shout out too. I gotta shout out Jeff, man.
Shout out to Jeff. So
Jeff, yo, bro, random thing, and I'm gonna shout him out on this pod too. Jeff, if you listening, we gotta link up. Shane, I just found out, I think like either yesterday or the day before, Jeff is living in Mableton, bro. He's maybe
mhm,
like 20, 30 minutes from me.
mhm,
He's like right down the street.
yeah. So
So,
gonna have to dust
uh,
off the sneakers one last time.
absolutely. It's
So
about to go down.
yes, a little sidebar. Sidebar. I have not shot a basketball since like April of 2023. Like it's
Phew.
been a long time. I have not put up a single shot.
Bro,
Uh
I'm probably somewhere close. And I gotta get back on it, man, because I miss it. I
yeah,
miss it.
like I
It's
was
crazy.
yeah, so like reason I haven't attempted a shot basically is that, COVID pretty much retired like a lot of us that were in this hoop. It was me and a bunch of other people, like former college players, coaches, like that. And so we would meet up around the time, like before the pandemic, and we would meet up like 6 a.m. We'd play at like a local high school or we'd play at the university in the mornings. We'd play like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so at the time that COVID came, like we were still going hard at it. And I think we had played that Wednesday. And so the next day, they had shut everything down. It was like March 12th when they shut everything down.
Yeah,
And so,
I'll never forget our last day of work was March 13th because I'll never forget it was Friday the 13th.
right. And so like that whole, we just kind of that was like the main hoop run I would get in town. And like it was a good run. I mean, like I said, we played 3 days a week. And so once the pandemic happened, they shut down the gyms. And so that's how I got into tennis. And so I've been like hard as passionate as you're hearing us talk about hoop and everything like that. I'm equally like into tennis like that. And so that's been kind of my thing since 2020. And so I still miss the game. Like I said, I ain't played 5-on-5 probably since mm, I probably haven't played 5-on-5 probably since like maybe 2021 sometime. Like it's been a long time since I played pickup really.
Basically what needs to happen is we need to be reacquainted. We need to get back on the court together.
Right, for sure.
We got to get back on the court together.
And the reason that is, and the reason that is kind of the inspiration for what exactly we're doing right now.
I don't
It's
even.
because
Ah,
like it started in a journalism class. Then we connected over our teams and our love for ball.
mhm.
Then we actually started contributing in the field of journalism. Me for sports, James was covering Valwood football for the newspaper. Like he had that gig going.
Bro,
He wrote a great story in college about remembering the Wildcats. Like that story was kind of the first thing I remember reading from him, like as a journalist, not just like my friend.
that
And so
that story
yeah.
that story means the world to me because growing up in Valdosta, it pissed off so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like not even to be like that old head that just hangs on to old memories. I just love the fact that when that story came out, so many people were pissed off about it. Like, if people are pissed off about the story in a place like Valdosta, Georgia, and trust me, if you're listening and you've never been there, if people are pissed off about a news story, that means a lot of what's in it is true.
Yeah.
So many people, nobody came to me personally, but I got rumblings of people that knew people that knew people that were like, oh, this story shouldn't have been written. this was a problem and da 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 da. And ladies and gentlemen, just to do y'all a favor, make sure y'all like and comment, subscribe, do everything you can on any of our outlets, and I will gladly send you the link to that story, but only if you like, comment, and subscribe. Continue,
And
Shane.
follow us on Instagram at the J
And
Podcast.
follow us on Instagram. Shane, do we need to go ahead and make a JWJ account on what is it called? Threads? Do we need to go ahead and do that?
We might need to make a Threads, I think.
We might need to.
Might
I
need
feel
to
like we
do it.
might need to do that. I mean, we're back now, so
Yeah.
we might need to do that. We back.
I hope y'all missed this. We kind of missed y'all. I don't know if y'all really cared or not, but we kind of missed doing this. So
In the words of baby girl, love you.
right,
We might need to do that.
right, man. But like like before we really get to it, like it's pretty cool. Like I said, we've been friends for going on 12, 13 years now, and we've seen a lot of like highs and lows. Um, from my standpoint, James chose me as the best man in his wedding. I've seen him, have children for the first time. He was there when I lost my aunt back in 2013. We had only been friends for like a year. And so um, like we've been there for each other in like our best times, and we've been there for each other in our worst times. And I think that's the mark of the friendship we've been able to build. Because I mean, it's just been so like there's been so many ups and downs with it, and I mean, we've never switched up on each other. We have a lot of the same interests. Like I
Right.
said, our career paths are kind of similar. I mean, it's kind of funny because I didn't know, like, going back a while now over this episode, it's like I had no idea about like necessarily the Ridley connection, but the cool,
That's crazy, man.
but
That's
the
crazy.
yeah, and the coolest thing about that story is the fact that she spoke life over both of us. And it's funny because she told me, uh, listen to me good, you will be a great writer someday. I was 11 years old. I'm 36 now. I'm an 8-year professional. I've won awards. I've been at the top of my profession in the state that I grew up in. So she spoke that life over me. She looked at James and she admired his confidence to get up and speak in front of people, even when he was a shy kid. Now he's speaking to other shy kids
The
and being responsible for speaking
and
life over their lives.
and
So
the
it's
and
kind of
the
cool how that
irony,
played out.
yeah, and the irony on my side is that the one teacher, well, I won't say the one, I'll
Mhm.
say the first, now that I look back on it, because I did have a couple of teachers in high school that spoke to me. But Ridley doing that for me back in middle school, the irony that the one person that told me that I would have the confidence to do it just happened to be in the same position that I am now.
Right,
It was an
right,
English teacher
right,
that told me that I would be doing it, and now I'm an English teacher. Like that throws me.
right.
I've had some other teachers along the way afterwards that spoke to me, and I would be remiss. I can't even bring it up without bringing her up, but I absolutely have to speak life into Miss Vaden Fowler, one of my absolute favorite teachers from Green Valley High School in Henderson, Nevada. She was the exact same way. She spoke to me and she said, she was like, you come in here, and she was real with me, and I still have my yearbook sitting right here on this shelf next to me. She signed it and she said that one of the things that I always wanted to tell you, she was like, I always looked at you as a nephew. And she was like, unfortunately, it'd be a nephew that I would kick in the behind, because when you're in class, you're so timid, you're so afraid to speak out. And I know there's so many things going on in your mind. But then when I see you in the courtyard, you're so eager to talk to your friends and this and that. And And she told me, she was like, you need to be more confident in what you know.
Mhm.
She was basically the reiteration of everything that Miss Ridley had said before.
Right.
And that's another thing, just like you said, we didn't have the Ridley connection. Until now, I had never made the Ridley Fowler connection. And that's another one that's gonna sit with me for
Right.
a long
And
time now that I think about it.
yeah, and like I said, the coolest part about this is, over the years we played a lot of ball together. We've won a lot together. I don't remember too many times that we lost a whole lot, but like,
It wasn't too many. It wasn't
wasn't
too
too
many.
many. Uh,
It wasn't too
one of the things that kind of sticks out is
many.
like the guys we just mentioned, Matt, Jeff, not the Hardy Boys. Um,
Right, the coincidence.
but like, so
Do I need
James,
to get up and start dancing?
yeah, you got to start dancing while I'm talking about it. But
I'm gonna have to dance for at least 12 minutes, just so you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Okay.
um,
Right.
yeah. So while James does his best Jeff Hardy twerk, while I'm getting my ass whooped, at least that's how it happened with Matt. So, but no, so
Wrestling references guaranteed, y'all.
yeah, yeah, for real. And so the one story that I remember, like with all of us, me, James, Jeff, Matt. This was when James, I think he was still working at the Y. He was about to leave the Y, and so like we went up there one weekend,
I know. I know where
and
you're going already.
we all ended up on a team together, and um, so the way our team was built, I don't even know, I don't remember who the fifth guy was. I still don't.
Mm-mm.
We played 5-on-5. I don't remember who the fifth guy was. But we got out there, and I swear we ran it for like 2 hours. We didn't lose a game.
At least 2 hours.
Like we
I'd
were
even
running.
I'd even go as far as to say three.
Right.
I
Like we were out there for a while,
We were
and we
gunning,
we we were balling people up. So it was like
couldn't miss.
couldn't miss. So like the way the team was built, I don't know who the fifth guy was, but Matt was the tallest guy. Matt's like 6'4", 6'4.5", like
I give
tall,
him,
lanky dude.
yeah, I'll say, yeah. I'd even give him 6'5". I
I'd give
don't,
I'd, I'd give him 6'5" for sure. Last time I saw Matt, like I think he got his back situated. He used to kind of
Mhm.
be a little hunched over, so he was probably like
Yeah,
6'3.5". Now he's like 6'5" for sure.
I give him six
Um,
five.
so Matt liked to play. He used to bang in the post, but he used to shoot outside. So he was on the team. James and Jeff were shooters. So like if James's spot coming down the court was left wing, Jeff was always right wing or wherever. So
Mm-hmm.
like me, since I was still playing a lot, like I was kind of like the point guard even at my size. I'm like 6'2", whatever. So like I'd be bringing the ball up, and so like I was
We
just
we were
looking to
we
get them
were
the ball.
we were very unorthodox with the
Like it
way,
was it was a cool team because like you would think
because
like okay
because
like
I'm only 5'9", 5'10", and me and Jeff are about the same size.
right,
He's lighter. He weighs a lot less than me,
right,
but height wise, we were the same. Like we were pretty much the same.
right, and it was crazy because like the way we were just running teams, it was like all right, like I could rebound, so I'd get the rebound, I'd take off, and so immediately we're coming down, and this is how James got the moniker of being the shooter on the wing. So I remember like we started out, and like I said, I'd come down on the break, middle of the floor. And so I'd see James trailing on the left side. I'd see Jeff trailing on the right side. And then I'd have Matt coming down, like right down the middle. And so everybody was getting fed that day. And so James would be like the first person because like they'd always kind of sink back in transition. So I knew if I made the pass early and on target, James could just catch it and walk into it. And James knew all I got to do is shoot it. So the release was like lightning quick. So like it seemed like every time I'd pass over there, like I get like I'm getting 6 points from that. If we're doing twos on threes, I'm getting at least 6 points from there, like right off the top. And
Mhm.
so James would come out hot. Then Jeff would take over. He'd start hitting shots. Then we get the ball inside to Matt. He would start
And Jeff
getting.
And that's where it switched up because Jeff could handle the ball too.
Right. And so if
And
Jeff
in
wasn't
that
handling
case,
it, I
if
was
he
handling
comes down, you switch to the wing.
it. Right. And
Like
so like
we had
if
a
James
dangerous ass team, boy.
right. So like
Like,
so yeah, so like how it was if James is on the left wing, Jeff is on the right wing, Matt's in the paint, right?
and sometimes I'd even switch to the right because I know you like the left.
Right,
I
right. And so like most of the time, if I didn't have the ball, Jeff had the ball. So
right,
then Jeff would bring it down. I would be on the left
right.
or in the corners,
And
and
I'll
James
switch
would
to
be
the
on the
right.
right.
Right, right.
And so like everybody could do like the same stuff. And so like
Hmm.
I would start hitting threes from the left side, and I'd start hitting
Hmm.
stuff from the corner. So like I could like sit there and play make for a while, and then Jeff
Hmm.
would hand off and play make. Next thing you know, Matt would get the rebound, he'd dribble it up, and he'd pull up and shoot it through. I'm like, man, we out here like cooking people. And so um I don't think we lost the game for like 2 hours. Like we literally were just running people out the gym. And so
It was at least 2 hours.
right, like and it was crazy. So like, and the
I
funniest part about this,
I'm still sticking to 3 hours, but it was at least two.
yeah, two minimum.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the funniest part about that story is the fact that we all like kind of, I think me, you, and Matt rode together.
Yeah, Jeff had gone. Jeff came on his own.
Yeah, and
I
so
remember the day you're talking about. Jeff had came on his own.
right, and I think I'm trying to think. I think Matt, yeah, Matt came with us, but
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out where we came from. But anyway, so like we're all there, and so we go out into the parking lot. We're all leaving. We all got our slides on and got our sweaty ass clothes and all that, right? And so we all get in the car. James was first because he drove. James gets in the car. He sits down. Oh,
Ugh.
because
Mm.
we at this point we're in like our mid to late 20s. And so James sits down. He
Jesus.
groans getting in the car. I was the second one to get in. I get in the car after I heard him groaning. I sit down. My back caught. I was like, oh, I sat down. Matt was behind us and he sat in the back. Matt gets in behind James.
But the funniest thing though was you looked at me and you were like, let's wait and see if
And
Matt makes any it was there was a
because yeah,
pause.
because
There was
the
a
first
pause.
thing
There was
was because he got in, he groaned. I got in, I groaned. We
and then
laughed at each other because we groaned. Now
right.
he's about to get in, and we're like,
And then there
is he
was a
gonna do it?
and then there was a pause. We're like, let's see.
Yeah, because
And then
he was, and the pause was perfect because he was taller than us.
yes.
So like he take a little bit longer to get in the car because he was taller. He was sitting in the back. So it's like oh, and I get in oh,
And
and then
we're
like 10 seconds goes, and we're
oh
we're
my
just sitting there
god.
like, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? Because we're
Oh
both like still laughing in the car.
oh my
We're like, is he
god.
gonna do it? And then sure enough, he opens the door, gets in. Not only did he groan, his groan was more obnoxious than all of ours. So like I said, James got in. He's like, oh, I get in. I'm like, oh shit. Matt gets in. He's like, oh, and we both were dying after that. And he's like, fuck y'all laughing at? He's like,
Yeah,
because he was like, we got in, we grown, you got in, you grown. He was like, man, shit, we getting old, bro.
he say it'd be like that. It'd be like that, man.
And so yeah, like that to me, that's like one of our favorite. That's probably like the biggest moment of us hooping
I'm
together.
not even gonna say one of. That is it.
Yeah,
That
like
was
that's the one that sticks
that
out
was the funniest.
because
Yeah.
that's the first time I think we all ran the court together.
At the Y for sure.
Right, because that was the one run that sticks out. Yeah,
Because we didn't hoop at the Y very often.
right,
Like we would normally be at the rec, and a lot of times when we were at the rec, Matt wasn't there.
right.
So
And he went to the
that's
Y a lot
why,
too. Yeah,
and that's why I was saying that's why the Y was so important because that was one of the few times that we actually did get to hoop with Matt.
right.
And
And so like
that was in what we would call Matt's prime.
yeah,
Because
so yeah, like that was like I think that was like 20 that was like 2014 or so. So yeah, we were all like, around the same age, really. I mean, by the way, funny thing
Aside from
about this,
me.
yeah, funny thing is, even though like me and Matt are about the same age, his birthday is like what, 20 days before mine.
And the
Um,
day after mine.
yeah, so like James's birthday is the 26th of May, Matt's birthday is the 27th of May, mine's the 17th of June. So like, yeah,
We're
and
all right
so
there.
it's
Why
kind of
why
funny.
why have we not look, I gotta throw it as if this podcast hasn't gone on long enough.
Yeah,
Why have we not coined some random like click name for us involving like Gemini shit? Why has
yeah.
that not happened yet?
I
Um
don't know. I
because
don't
the
know.
more as much as I know it's a thing,
Yeah.
what are we doing? What are we
Details at 11. By the way, if you guys have made it this far, we do want to thank you for, partaking in us telling our origin story. There's still a little bit more to tell.
Yeah, because
Um,
we still they still don't know what the hashtag means.
yeah, like, I'm sure everybody's
You
wanted to
think
know.
you
I've had
think
a
we
couple
should
people ask us.
you think we should give them that tonight? Think we
Yeah,
should?
we should give them that.
You
We should
think
give
so?
them that.
Okay.
If they've stuck around this long, they deserve it.
Oh,
Um,
that
but
makes sense.
that Mason, you want to know what the name is? Hmm?
Because if I'm
You
right,
want to
I'm
know what the
right.
name is?
Because if I'm right, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I'm still right. Because I could have been wrong. Never mind. Just never mind. Never
You
mind.
got you gotta like you gotta put on the seductive voice for him. Like, you want to know? You want to know what the name is? Mhm.
Do you
But
want to know?
no.
You really want to
So
know?
so
You don't want to know.
you want to know. So basically, um,
Can
like I was
you
about to like I was about to say.
before we throw the name spoiler in there, Shane?
Mhm.
I gotta ask a 100% honest question.
Okay.
Well, it's a two-part question.
Okay.
One, do you remember when we coined the name? And
Mhm.
two, do you remember which one of us came up with it? And I'm
So
not and I'm not asking that on a debate type standpoint because
mhm.
honestly, I don't remember either.
Yeah. So I
I
don't
just know
remember.
that we came up with it together, but I
Yeah.
can't remember which one of us like
Yeah.
suggested.
So
You know what I mean?
yeah. So here's how it came up. So the whole concept of JWJ
Mhm. You
came
mean just
from,
just the name, not the
yeah,
podcast yet?
yeah. So the
Just
whole JWJ concept came from, uh I was trying to market myself for like the career I'm going into. So obviously,
mhm.
I'd been doing stuff for the Spectator. I started working, doing freelance stuff for in the game. So one of the ways that I was trying to like market myself,
You were freelancing. That means I was working it in the game.
right, right. And
Okay.
so it kind of started
Screw them.
as, yeah, right.
Oh, sorry.
That's a whole story for a whole nother time.
Hey, we might have a part two to this, y'all.
Oh God, but yeah,
Because
so
I have no problem blasting them. They ain't about nothing.
yeah,
But
so
yeah.
no, it actually started as a tagline for me. Um, because obviously I was getting into journalism and I was big in the ball. And so I kind of it started as a tagline for me. And so when we started like really getting in the ball and we started having more of these conversations, it started to become, man, you know what? We should start a podcast. But we never
Yeah.
like came up with the exact like what we wanted to call it.
Yeah, we
But
talked about, we first brought up the
yeah,
podcast idea probably like 10 years ago.
right. And so like it became like, okay, like we should do it, but we would always have these long conversations and we'd be debating. And so we'd be like, man, we should like James would be the main one saying we should make podcasts out of this. We should be
Because we
recording this.
because we would be on the phone, like we'd be on the phone and we would talk basketball and it would be legitimate conversations. Like we
Yeah.
would talk for 3 4 I think there's been moments where we've been on the phone for like 5 hours
Right.
and
Just
we would
talking
just
ball.
sit there and
Right.
there would be absolutely no downtime. Like
Right.
it would literally be like, hey, Andrew Bogut this, Kobe Bryant that. You know, like we just be going and there would never be any dead time. And we're like, yo, like clearly we both know what we're talking about.
Right.
Let's do something with this. Like
Right.
we had that plan for a while.
Right. And so, because of our backgrounds, us becoming friends, us being classmates, like what technically we were classmates before we were friends. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
so
right.
we
Right.
met in the journalism class. A lot of our greatest experiences came from both watching ball and playing against each other and playing with each other, playing ball. So it's like, I always looked at it like, especially when I was in college, is like, yeah, I'm a journalist, but I still like hoop and I'm like serious about it. Like, and so I wanted to take my own love for the game and package it with what I'm doing as far as my writing and what I'm doing. So that's where the original idea for the name came from, because the tagline was, I'm a journalist with a jump shot looking to make his name.
Let's go.
And so
Let's
that was
go.
actually when I
That was it.
when James helped me get on at In the Game as a freelancer, they actually included me in my first magazine, like in the back, like the Meet the Writers section, like the
Bro.
contributors,
And I'm telling you, to this day, I'm still so pissed off.
because they can't spell writer.
No, because I don't have a copy of that magazine.
Yeah,
The one
yeah,
I want a copy of that magazine where you were on the cover because you covered the dude Kreger,
yeah, yeah.
and
My first story was the cover story.
that was the that was the same magazine where I put in my story about the lounge women from the 80s.
Yep. Hmm.
I don't have a copy of that magazine.
Yeah. I I don't know. I don't remember, like, I know I had a copy, but I don't know where it is. It may still
Yeah,
be in my old house, actually,
yeah,
which means it may not be no good now, but
I want a copy of
yeah,
that. I gotta find a way. I want that magazine. Like
yeah.
that
And like,
magazine
yeah.
means the world. Like that. I want a copy of that, and then I want a copy of the VDT, the front page. My first
Hmm.
time covering, I think it was me covering baseball, and then I can't remember what you were covering, but it was me, you, and it was Derek.
Yeah, Derek Davis. Yep.
We were all on the front page together.
Right.
Like
And so it was a
we
spectator reunion in the Daily Times. It was
exactly
pretty cool.
we killed the front page in the city paper.
Yeah. And so, like,
And I don't
yeah,
have a
that was
copy of
huge.
that either.
Yeah, that was huge. And like I said, that's kind of the origin of JWJ, is that, it started with just the idea I had for a tagline. And then it became like, we both went through journalism. We both, like, even though our
Love
paths kind of
basketball.
deviated after, we got in different careers or whatever. I mean, I was obviously stuck with journalism. James was in it, and then, made a career change. But it's like we still, are those same journalists, curious people at heart. And so,
That love
um,
didn't fade.
yeah, and James basically took kind of that idea, and that's how we ended up getting the name for the podcast. So this is the Journalist with Jump Shots podcast. And if you are still listening,
Yeah.
if you are still listening, we do want to thank you for making JWJ a part of your day. If you're not already, make sure you're following us at the JWJ podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on pretty much every platform. We're on Anchor, Spotify,
We out you.
iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and more.
And on
Uh,
Thread soon, because I feel like
we'll,
we
we'll,
have to be.
we'll be on Threads. We're on Twitter. We're on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter.
The
Uh,
artist.
but yeah, again, if you follow us on Apple Podcasts, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to hit like, subscribe, click that notification bell to be notified whenever we release new content. As we mentioned before, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at the JWJ Podcast. If you want to follow us individually, you can find me at It's a Thomas Thing on Instagram and Twitter. You can find James on Instagram and Twitter as well at Title Towns Mayor. If you'd like to weigh in, we will be having more episodes. We just wanted to get this one out of the way. But we definitely want to talk about the
That's a lot
Minnesota
going
New York
on.
trade that I can't
WNBA
wait to
finals
talk
coming
about.
up.
That will be our second. Then we got WNBA finals to talk about. So that'll be an upcoming episode as well. So if you'd like to weigh in, our guy Luis, we'll be mentioning him in our next
Yo,
episode.
love you, Louise.
Shout out to Luis, because we will be talking about his New York Knicks and the Timberwolves trade with Karl Anthony Towns. But you know, you can be just like Luis. If you'd like to weigh in on the topics we've discussed, drop a comment, shoot us an email at the jwjpodcast@gmail.com, shoot
And
us a
we will
DM on
will
Instagram, and we tend to reply to those. So yeah.
we'll gladly shout you out. We appreciate anybody that joins in.
Yeah. So, with that being said, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. And we just want to thank you for the support. It feels good to be back. We can't wait to put out new episodes for you guys and get back to talking ball. So until next time, thanks again for your support. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for lacing up and locking in to the Journalists with Jump Shots podcast.
Hey.
JWJ.